Now welcome to another lightning response video, where this time I'm going to try to answer multiple questions that all kind of relate to each other. And we will kick it off with this one from Kamenai-chan. Probably saying that way wrong, my apologies, but they asked, "Hey Thor, there is some good consensus on the state of Star Wars that it needs to improve, but how will we know when Star Wars as a whole is good again? With all the damage that has been done under Disney's stewardship, will it be as simple as one great show or movie putting Star Wars and Lucasfilm back in people's good graces? I personally think it will take time and consistency. But that raises the question, how many good or at least decent projects have to happen in a row before people say that Star Wars is a property worth watching? Skeleton Crew is apparently a good show, but many people, including myself, skipped it because Star Wars is such a dead brand nowadays. A single good decent show is not worth the cost of a Disney Plus subscription, so how many shows and movies until that changes for people?" And I do think you kind of hit the answer right in the question there. I think it's consistency. I don't know that there is an exact number of good shows or movies strung together that are going to bring a lot of people back. I mean, it could be one great movie. It could be the Mando and Grogu movie is incredible and it brings back a ton of people. It brings the buzz back to the brand. It gets people excited for Star Wars again. But it's obviously not going to do it for everybody. And even if it does, it'll be so precarious of a position on top again that I don't think it would take much for them to fall once more. So yeah, I think it is consistency. It is not going to be one movie and then a good show or a couple good shows or a couple good movies. It's going to take years, I think, to really bring Star Wars back to any sort of place it used to be. And I don't know it ever reaches the heights it once did before, and that's not entirely because Star Wars just can never recapture that same magic. But as I always say, we live in a world of near infinite entertainment options. For so many people, it's getting all in on one thing for the month or 2 months it's going on, and then suddenly the next big thing is out and you're all in on that. I don't know that people are fans of things the same way they once were, just in general. I'm not saying there's no Star Wars fans. I'm not saying certain franchises don't have fans. That's not what I'm saying at all. I'm saying on the more casual side of things, I think people just get into so many more different things nowadays. It's just, this is the thing that's hot now. When it's over, it's on to the next thing. When that other hot thing comes back, they check it out. And if you're not consistent, if you put out a couple duds in a row, like we could argue Star Wars has been putting out more duds than good things lately, you have those more casual fans who just don't come back. They are going to watch something else instead of the next Star Wars thing because the last two Star Wars things they watched weren't very good. And so basically, like you said, it'll take consistency. It's going to take multiple good shows, multiple good movies, and that might slowly but surely bring a lot more people back into the fold. Both the more hardcore fans who've said they're done with it, I'm never giving it another chance. And then again, beyond the hardcore fan, the more casual fan or that kind of average audience member who checks out what's hot now, or they know Star Wars, so they usually check it out, but don't really call themselves a fan. They will also need to hear that things have been consistently good if they've checked out, like I was saying, a couple shows and movies here and there and haven't liked them. So yeah, that's what it takes to save Star Wars. Consistently good content. And I don't think there is a number we can put on it in terms of years or number of pieces of content that are good. It's going to be different for each person, but yeah, consistency over a long stretch of time. Where not every show, of course, is going to be perfect or every movie is going to be perfect, but overall, a large number of them are. That is the only way to fix things. All right, and now let's move on to this one from @A21edits, who asked, "Hey Thor, so I've been harassed by a EU purist fan for liking the new stuff for the past year, and I had to make a video about it, because it went too far this time. He's called me a fake fan, a Rey lover for the past year, when I leave comments on some EU channels talking about the new stuff sometimes. It just went too far this time. There's no rule saying that you can't like the EU and the new canon both have its values. I just wished as fans we didn't have to fight each other like this." And I too wish we in the Star Wars fandom here didn't have this tendency to fight amongst ourselves about what is or isn't Star Wars, or what parts you're supposed to like and what parts you're not supposed to like. Because, I mean, it is all subjective, it is all personal taste, not to mention it has a lot to do with when you became a fan and for what reason or because of what piece of content. There are fans who saw the original Star Wars in 1977 in a theater and have been here for almost 50 years, And there might be some who checked out Skeleton Crew a couple weeks ago or months ago, I guess, and loved it, and they are now considering themselves Star Wars fans. So obviously, we're not all going to agree, and when it comes to Disney Star Wars, there are good shows and movies, or movie in the Disney era. Not all of it has been bad. There is a lot I like, but it goes back to the first question, right? It needs to be consistent. If you're asking me how much has been good and how much has been bad, I don't know, maybe 50-50 at best. And that just isn't going to cut it. You need to be more closer to 90%, I would say. Of course, every now and then there's going to be a dud show or movie or something you just don't like, or it's just not made very well, or something goes wrong with it. That is absolutely going to happen, and we as fans should accept the fact it is not going to be perfect, that they will make mistakes, but you still need to get it right more often than not, and there's no reason for us to necessarily fight over this as much as we do. Certainly you can express your opinions, you can say what you like, what you don't like, or how it should be run or how it shouldn't be run or whatever, but to get angry at each other the way we sometimes do over something that we all love is just kind of silly to me. You can be passionate about the parts you like or defending what you like or vehemently disagree with others or even have spirited debates online. But let's not hate each other over this. Again, we all love the same thing. We all love Star Wars. It's just that we all see it a little differently, and we should really just try to respect that. Okay, and I think this is going to be the last question for the video. There were a few others I wanted to get to that were really good. There were a ton of great questions this time. You guys make it really hard on me to do these videos. But this one kind of goes very well with the other two and kind of completes the trilogy almost. And it comes to us from Artie Medley, who asked, "Hey Thor, it's been my argument all along that true fans will watch everything Star Wars and complain when it's bad and cheer when it's not. The analogy I use is myself being a Dallas Cowboys fan. I'm so sorry to hear you're a fan of the Cowboys, but they have flashes of brilliance that can't quite reach the Super Bowl as of late. I still watch and I still want them to win. A true fan does not jump bandwagons. When I see comments not just on your channel asking where's the didn't watch button, I have a problem with those fans. Yes, they are screaming for the head coach to be fired, and that should have happened recently, but they are not true fans, in my opinion. At least if they watch something, they can give it an honest review, and being jaded might sway the review to the negative, but at least they gave each show a shot. I believe that you owe them that because you're paying money for it, if you are in fact a fan. You have never used the phrase, 'I'm done,' like another popular reviewer that I unsubbed from. I appreciate your level-headed, honest opinions too." And this is a tricky one, because I totally get where you're coming from. I like your analogy about being a Cowboys fan, and they haven't exactly been the greatest team lately. They haven't won anything at the very least. They haven't been a terrible team, but they haven't won anything in a while now. And so if you're going to jump ship now after they're not winning, when you might have been a fan in the 90s when they were, yeah, you could argue it kind of makes you a fair weather fan, or you're just riding the bandwagon when they're good and you don't care when they're bad. So does that make you a real fan or just somebody who likes to watch a team win? And I would argue what makes it feel sweet when you do win the Super Bowl is that you were there for the bad years, because you feel like in your weird sort of way that you earned it as well, even though you just sat on your couch or in the stands and watched and you cheered. But you feel like you were a part of the bad and now you deserve the good, I guess. However, with sports, there has to be losers, right? There are 32 teams in the NFL. Only one can win the Super Bowl. So 31 teams are going to be, or 31 fan bases and teams are going to be disappointed in some way, shape, or form at the end of the season. And when you really stop and think about it, when you do a little math, there is a fandom right now who will not see their team win the Super Bowl in at least 32 more years. Because if, again, you do the math, and if, say, somehow a different team wins the Super Bowl every year for the next 32 years, or every one of the 32 teams in the NFL right now wins the Super Bowl in the next 32 years, well, there's one team that's going to take 32 years to finally get theirs. And then when you figure that, well, some teams are going to win more than one in that time, some might win 3, 4. And so a fandom is getting that win pushed back even further with each 2 times a team happens to win. Now, I don't know why I just rambled on about that. I guess I just wanted to share that little nugget if you're a fan of a team and never thought about sports that way. But with Star Wars, you don't have to ever lose, in theory. You're not directly competing. Well, I mean, you're kind of directly competing with other franchises, but not in the way that one will win and one will lose, or that at the end of the year there is the ultimate winner and everybody else is a loser in some way, shape, or form, or to some degree. Star Wars can consistently, in theory, put out good shows and movies every single time. They don't ever necessarily have to take an L like you would see in professional sports. And so when they do keep losing, it's not a matter of, well, they tried their hardest, but there just happened to be a better team this particular year who won it all, or they didn't make the playoffs this year because they weren't quite good enough, or they just tanked and won a game or two and were the worst team in the NFL. It's not the same because, well, they don't, again, have to lose. And so I understand when people say they are not going to watch the new stuff because they just keep losing when they don't have to lose. I don't know if any of this is making sense. I guess my point is that even though I'm the type of fan that will always root for Star Wars, that I will never truly give up on it, I would still be watching it even if I wasn't doing YouTube and talking Star Wars on YouTube. I don't think I would have given up on it yet. I don't know that I would ever give up on it. And I know that's kind of hypocritical of me because I always tell you, vote with your wallet. If you want things to get better, you have to send them a message. And so if I weren't doing this, because obviously I have to keep up with what they're actually doing and watch the shows, but if I weren't doing this, well, yeah, you could call me a bit of a hypocrite. And I think there are a lot of people who kind of fall into that camp and who are kind of in the same camp as you. They just don't want to give up on it. And I don't blame those people, as I don't blame the people who kept paying and kept seeing bad shows and movies or kept seeing them lose and said, hey, why am I paying for this when they keep losing? When again, they don't have to lose. They're trying to say they feel there is something very wrong with Star Wars, and in this odd sort of way, them not watching is about the best way they think they can say that or have their voices be heard. I think bringing it back to that first question, kind of going full circle here, I think if in 5 to 10 years, if Kathleen Kennedy is gone, if people have been hearing how good Star Wars has been over that time period, I think even the most hardened Disney Star Wars hater will at the very least consider watching, if not have already returned. I think if you are a Star Wars fan, you should always hold on to that glimmer of hope that Star Wars can and will be better and that you would potentially come back. I'm not saying that if you have given up completely on Disney Star Wars and will not ever come back no matter what, that you're not a Star Wars fan. There is still the old stuff. You can still be a fan of that. I'm just saying, going back to the second question, that I think we just all need to respect that we all have different takes, different opinions, and that we are all Star Wars fans, even if we do not agree on what that even means in the first place. All right, I think that is going to be all I got for you this time. I don't know if anything I had to say here makes sense, so now it is your turn to tell me in the comments below if it did or maybe did not. Or, of course, you can ask a question for a future lightning response video. You start your comment off with "Hey Thor," you ask a question, I read it, and I try, very much try, to answer it in a future video. But whatever the case may be, leave those comments below. Let's keep talking some Star Wars, and until next time, thank you so much for watching.